Hello, and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your host, Bob Anthony.
I'm Alan Singer.
Eric Tait. Thanks, Dr.
And,
Singer, for being with us.
and as usual, this is brought to you through the courtesy of EBT Educational Productions, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and of course, Zoom. Those of you watching us on MNN, sometimes there's been technical issues over there, and the right episode hasn't shown on the right day. But you can always catch us on YouTube at Media Watch EBT. So and Eric is here. He usually leads the show, but he's allowing me to lead this one because his dental work is still healing. But of course, he's still here to carry that big stick. So how should we start, gentlemen? I know we have there's a lot going on at CBS, and is that where we want to start?
Yeah. Alan, you had something, right?
Yeah, well, Bari Weiss was appointed by the Ellisons, who took over CBS, as head of the CBS News. And she had a meeting with employees where she said we have to have a new kind of savvy journalism because people aren't watching. And so she announced she's going to be putting on influencers on the air. And she claimed that these were people from across the political spectrum. But when you look at the names, you realize that these are right wingers. There's one guy who is a influencer in the manosphere, where he promotes dietary supplements that aren't supported by medical claims. She has this historian named Niall Ferguson. Now, Ferguson was one of her partners in the University of Austin, which again she claimed had no ideological background, except everybody who was progressive has now quit. Now, Ferguson writes for her free press, where he champions the free market economists, attacks on social service programs. He actually defends British imperialism. And then she has this guy, Coleman Hughes, who's their black representative. He's a member of the right-wing Manhattan Institute because he argues that we have to have a colorblind society, as suggesting we actually do. Gayle King, who I actually like very much, she was one of the few people who had the chutzpah to stand up to Weiss. And she said, that people are telling me they're not watching us anymore because of you. And Weiss says, if you don't like it, you're free to leave.
It,
That's
it's
CBS.
it's been quite the shakeup because they now have a new anchor at the evening news, Tony DeCopel, a guy who I think the three of us agree that sort of came out of nowhere given the other talent that CBS has. Bari Weiss, when they first hired her, they also paid what $150 million for her newsletter, the Free Press,
Yeah.
and which wasn't worth anywhere near that. And a lot of the people you just named, a lot of the new commentators have connections with the Free Press. So she's hooking up friends and colleagues. And we don't even have time to get into the effect that she's had on 60 Minutes, which is the gold standard of good journalism, in delaying one particular program on the prison, the Seacott prison, where they sent some of the initial immigrants to. So yeah, it's a big mess at CBS right
So
now.
influencers will now take the place of rock solid real journalism.
Yes.
Influencers. And that's because she wants more viewers.
Allegedly, that's the way to
That's the way to
gain
get viewers.
eyes and clicks.
So it's not
Yeah.
about serving the American public. It's not about utilizing the public airwaves to do what the government allows these networks to do using the public's airways, because CBS is publishing over the public's airways. And they were allowed that because they're supposed to bring a service of good journalism to the public. She just cares for clicks and influencers to get her the clicks, not about the journalism.
It has everything to say about her lack of experience in broadcast journalism. She had none on the way in.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I can't see CBS's ratings somehow relaunching on account of this. So
we used to call Fox News the fake journalism outfit. So Now we're going to end up calling CBS the fake news and journalism outfit too, probably. But
Yeah.
speaking of Fox News, what do you guys have on Megyn Kelly real quick? Bob, you said she had a great day.
I mean, Alan had. Well, let's lead with what Alan had.
Well, again, Megyn Kelly accused one of the Kathy Swisher, I believe her name, the
Yeah,
journalist,
Catherine Swisher. Yes,
yeah, accused
Kara
Stephen
Swisher.
Miller
Yeah,
of implementing policies that are remnant of fascism in Nazi Germany. You know, with the deportation of people, the rounding them up, the targeting of them, the calling them names. And Megyn Kelly apparently got very upset about this because she felt we shouldn't be comparing people to Nazi Germany and fascist Italy because it's it's beneath us.
The
I don't know.
background was the Pretti shooting. Go with the background.
Okay. Well, again, Alex Pretti was killed by ICE, and we all saw the video, except apparently Donald Trump. But if you watch the video, he's directing traffic. He has his phone in his hand, and a woman is getting pepper sprayed and knocked over by ICE agents. He bends over to help her, and they start beating him up. Then, while he's on the floor, two guys shoot him. Now, they claim he had a gun. The gun was in his holster, was never in his hands, was never out. It was a legal gun. He was legally allowed to carry it. And they, I think, and I would say, though I'm not a lawyer and stuff, they murdered him.
But Noem and the ICE people claimed he was what?
He was threatening them. He had his gun out.
Yeah, they use the word what? Domestic terrorist.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the domestic terrorist label was put on them, and Megyn Kelly felt that yes, his actions made him. What was her claim? She didn't have any sympathy for him because of what?
I mean, yeah, Megyn Kelly, and just for those who don't remember, Megyn Kelly was super big on the cable networks. She even got hired by NBC, and we thought she was going to end up as the anchor of NBC News. She's faded since that. But yeah, she said that all Pretti needed to do was to keep his ass out of the way and not get involved. And she had no sympathy for him.
Right.
And for that, Jim Accosta, who a former TV correspondent, called her a monster, used the F-bomb multiple times to describe her, which frankly I agree with, and said that she was saying these things for the sake of clicks, which she badly needs for her own shows and presentations.
Maybe Bari Weiss will hire her.
Wherever that show
that's not
is,
beyond the realm of we're joking about it. We wouldn't be shocked here.
Don't be surprised if that doesn't happen sometime soon. But all this is in quote support of the MAGA narrative because Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller both immediately called Pretti a domestic terrorist before any of the videos were analyzed by anybody. And then they've proceeded to double down and triple down when the videos clearly showed the man had a phone, not a gun. And so the brouhaha from Pretti's shooting and this domestic terrorism stuff has blown up, correct? What's been the latest as far as ICE and where people are relating to ICE?
Well, the two shooters have been put on administrative leave. They were hustled out of town. Bovino, who was the border security guy who was sent up, the guy walking around with his make-believe Nazi
right.
shirt, he has been shipped out of town also. He's been replaced by Homan, I think.
Yeah, Homan, yes.
But this is the thing. These are not isolated incidents. ICE has been attacking journalists all over the country. You know, in New York City in September, masked ICE agents shoved a photojournalist in an elevator. And then in Minneapolis, a Getty photojournalist was tackled by ICE.
Mhm.
And in Chicago, a TV employee was pushed to the ground and arrested during an ICE raid.
Mhm.
So ICE is out of control. They are like the goon squads in fascist countries. And they've been attacking journalists because journalists report what they do.
And they basically understand that there will be no pushback on them. Their ICE will just protect them. They won't face any internal civilian review board or anything like that.
So the bottom line, not the ongoing problem that I see right now, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw a report where there have been at least 32 deaths attributable to ICE, whether it's from incarceration, people being choked to death, people being shot on the streets, journalists being assaulted. But deaths have occurred where people didn't get medication because they were in ICE custody. This list is just growing because there's no accountability for ICE. What does that say? Let me flip the switch real quick, even though we didn't talk about this. Isn't there a vote coming up right now about funding the entire government and more billions for ICE that some Democratic House members voted for? Now all of a sudden they're mea culpa, shouldn't have done it, like Tom Suozzi here in New York. What is going on with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats about whether they're going to fund this damn bill?
Chuck Schumer announced today that the Democrats are going to block it. And Chuck Schumer is the Casper Milquetoast of politics. You know, if he has gone to that level, the outrage of the public at this is so extreme.
Yeah. So you mentioned Suozzi and Schumer. I mean, when they looked at the budget and looked at the money that was being given to ICE, I mean, it was like the funding would be enough money to run to like 2029. There was so much money in there. And they're basically saying, if this is the way you're using the money, we're not approving it. And if the government shuts down again, this could be seriously longer than the previous shutdown, leading into the midterms. This is going to be bad if it comes to that.
Now, the Republicans have been given the option to pull that ICE funding out of the other appropriations bill so they could be voted on without getting the government shut down. The Democrats have said, pull that out because we're not going to vote for it, and we'll pass the rest of the stuff, the government won't get shut down. What's the Republican position on that?
I haven't heard anything specific, but we damn well know they're not going to go for that.
Well, you're correct in that the one report that I saw was Republicans say they flat not letting the Democrats pull that out of the funding bill. And so the Democrats, from what you're saying, Alan, how did he phrase it, Schumer, about the Democrats? His whole entire caucus is not going to support that.
Yes, he said we're just not going to support it. Let me see if I had it over here. Chuck Schumer said his caucus would not vote for a spending package that would fund much of the government past Friday unless Republicans agreed on placing new restrictions on federal immigration officers, including the end of roving immigration patrols and a prohibition on federal officers wearing masks. That's
okay.
Today's current New York Times.
Okay, so we're taping the Wednesday before Monday air, and
we're taping the 28th of January 28th.
Yeah. So by next Monday, we'll know because that vote's coming up before next Monday, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Scheduled for Friday. You know, yeah, Eric, okay. This is the thing. The evilness of the Republican Party goes very deep. Social media posts from the White House, from the Department of Labor, from the Department of Homeland Security have included images, slogans, and even a song used by white nationalists, right-wingers. And they refer to neo-Nazi literature, ethnic cleansing, conspiracy theories. They talk about deporting a third of the U.S. population.
These are official government websites?
That are being used official government that are being used by right-wingers who are in the government. Look, I don't know if you've seen the ads for recruitment for ICE. It's like they're recruiting the high school thugs.
I agree. I've seen some of them. I mean, they wave money at them, like 50 grand, something like that.
Mm.
And I think you have to be employed for a few months to get that kind of money. But yeah,
Let me ask you a question. Go ahead, Bob.
no, and my stomach churns every time I see the Kristi Noem TV commercial about this runway is for you if you're an illegal alien, leading with that disgusting image of the man with the tattoos on his face, as if that face represents illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are women and children and people trying to, escape
The people
authoritarian government. It's not
people,
it's not a criminal thug with tattoos all over his face.
right, the people they're killing in detention centers. Where
Yeah.
32
They
of them
actually,
already dead.
in the ad, they have this right-wing song called "We'll Have Our Home Again." I mean, this is like the anthem of the Proud Boys, that everybody else doesn't belong here,
Right.
only us.
So,
And this is really scary. And
so
the federal government has been using this stuff.
our federal government, white wing supremacy stuff on their website. We've got Stephen Miller, who's taken a page out of the Nazi playbook, trying to vilify and talking about this blood libel crazy nonsense. Carrie, what's her name, Swisher?
Kara.
Kara, who's the
Yeah.
one who equated Stephen Miller to the gentleman who started the Japanese internment camps in our country for World War II, and also equated Stephen Miller with Himmler because of the Nazi playbook that Stephen Miller seems to be trying to put into place. Alan, you're saying we shouldn't equate what these people are doing to those Nazis, but if you look at that white supremacist website, if you look at the fact that these jackbooted people with masks in brown shirted, brown outfit uniforms are killing our people in the streets, what does that say to you about 1930s Germany?
I like to draw a distinction between fascism and Nazism. Nazism was fascism with a really virulent anti-Semitic piece that led to the extermination of Jews. But fascism in Italy, fascism in Spain, fascism in Hungary, they didn't have that component. I really think it is legitimate to say that the authoritarian direction of the United States is pointed towards fascism. I'm just not comfortable with, calling them Nazis.
Yeah,
In as much as they're not actually gassing people in mass.
Yeah.
Right. But they're killing them in detention. They're choking them to death. They're shooting our citizens on the streets. And they're doing it with no accountability.
Yeah.
And they're then calling the individuals who are protesting this kind of behavior domestic terrorists. Does that not sound like 1930s Nazi propaganda in Germany?
That was the Nazi playbook, the Nazi Party playbook.
All
yes.
Right.
In Germany, it took 18 months for the Nazi Party and Hitler to dismantle democracy, the Weimar Republic, and create government of the leader.
Yeah.
Führer, the leader. Yeah. And that's what's happening here.
Thank you. That's exactly the point I'm trying to get us to get across.
Yeah, and
Stephen Miller is one of the key architects behind this. That's why she called him out, and Megyn Kelly had a fit because she called him out.
And they're doing some of the same things because, and I'm sure Alan has seen it. If you look at the literature, the anti-Jewish literature that the Nazis put out, about Jews and how trying to convince the people of how to think of them, as them, as others, and singling them out as the big problem. And that those similarities I see. So I guess I fall between you and Alan. But yeah, because I see a lot of consistencies in what Stephen Miller is doing. And that's another guy that gets me sick to my stomach every time I listen to him speak, because like you said, Alan, the evilness in what they're doing is below I was going to say below what this country stands for. It's below what any country stands for.
Look,
And
they've
he's
been
the
dehumanizing the Somalis. That's
Yes,
what's been going on in Minnesota.
good
But
example.
when you call
Trump has done
people
that.
a garbage people, you call people garbage. That's like your blood libel's heinous accusation. That is basically Nazi playbook stuff. And you know what? It's not the greatest segue going on, but the folk who suffered all the Nazi atrocities are now turning around in Gaza and perpetrating similar atrocities against the folks in Gaza. Talk to us about the Israelis and their bombings during a ceasefire and their assault on journalists in the Middle East.
Well,
Because it's a piece of what we're doing here in our country.
Last week, an Israeli airstrike killed 3 Palestinian journalists who were traveling in a car to film a newly established displacement camp. One of those killed has worked for years as a cameraman and video journalist for CBS News and Agence France. Now, the military claimed they targeted them because they were operating a drone. But of course, they were operating a drone. They were doing video footage for the stations they represent. Now, according to the United Nations, as of December, more than 260 media professionals were killed by the Israelis in Gaza. And an additional 500 were wounded, and Israel has arrested another 200. And despite the ceasefire, Israel continues to prevent international journalists from accessing Gaza.
Exactly. They did so briefly, only as far as I think where the trucks were parked to bring in aid, and they didn't go any further than that. And even the journalists who were in that little convoy said we didn't see much of anything. But there's no way you can mistake a drone that journalists use for an attack drone. That's simple. And the IDF has the electronics and the ability to separate a car driving down a road from a tank or a personnel carrier or anything like that. So it's not like they didn't know who that was and what that drone was doing. And the New York Times and other outlets have proven that journalists have been targeted by the IDF. We're not just saying so here on the air. It's been proven by other investigative outlets that this is what's happening. And the loss of the CBS cameraman was noted on the CBS Evening News a few days ago, which I'm glad they did because it wasn't widely reported.
Yeah, we keep trying to go to places where when the wackos in DC gobble up all the air and take all the time so they can take people's mind off the Epstein files, take people's mind off the craziness in Venezuela, take their minds off the stupidity of I want to take Greenland by force. They will throw anything at the wall. But we are rapidly this database that ICE is building. I don't know if we even talked about it. They are actually got ICE agents filming the protesters on the streets, taking their license plates, taking pictures of their faces, compiling a database of protesters who are protesting the illegality of the Trump administration's war on American cities. And they said they were going to build a database. Tom Homan, the acceptor of the $50,000 bribe guy that's supposed to be our chief of Homeland Security, the crook who's gotten away with a $50,000 bribe, who's supposed to be the peacemaker in Minneapolis right now. This is the guy who said, yeah, we're going to build this database of people who are protesting against our administration. So blatant violation of constitutional rights. I don't know how much time we got left.
We have about 3.5 minutes, and maybe we should get into what the DOJ is doing.
Yeah, the bottom line is they are blatantly politicizing, turning ICE into a Gestapo unit. They're taking DOJ and weaponizing it. I mean, Don Lemon and his producer got targeted by Trump's DOJ for arrest warrants because they were trying to tie whatever they were broadcasting and talking about that occurred when that church got taken over by 3 protesters last weekend. They said, issue arrest warrants. Now, the judge Tell us what the judge said about the arrest warrants, and we can segue back to the rest.
Well, the first judge threw it out, and so they appealed. And the appellate judge, who's a federal conservative chief federal judge in Minnesota, he called the petition for an arrest warrant frivolous when the administration claimed that this was a matter of national security.
That's the DOJ claiming national security to try to arrest a reporter.
Yeah.
When the lower courts are saying this is bogus, and they haven't stopped. They may even try to take that to the Supreme Court. That's how crazy they are. Because that was just an appellate court ruling. And you know what happens when they lose in the appellate level? They go up. So that wouldn't surprise me. But there's a litany. I don't know if you guys have that email I sent you, but run down that list of folks, Alan, Bob, whomever, where.
If you have the list handy, Alan, go right ahead.
I have it. Yeah, I have it.
Run it down real quick in a short time.
They're Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, Mark Kelly, the U.S. Senator, Adam Schiff, also a senator, Jack Smith, the former special counsel, Miles Taylor, the former chief of staff of Homeland Security, Christopher Krebs, who I don't know, James Comey, Letitia James. They have a long enemies list, and they're taking legal action. You know, there was a piece you mentioned, a broadcaster for the Minnesota Viking radio station
Paul Allen
claimed that the protesters were being paid, and he thought they should get hazard pay because of the weather. Now, I have to tell you, I've been involved in protesting for about 60 years, and I've never been paid. And if there's money due, I should receive a whole bunch.
Exactly.
But this is ridiculous.
Yes, you should have a lot backed up. And with that, we have about a minute left. But yeah, we can agree that the DOJ is just being weaponized just to satisfy Trump, just to go back after his enemies. And and we don't have time to talk about it today, but even today, they've sent the FBI into the Fulton County, Atlanta elections office to look for, quote, I don't know what from the 2020 elections, just to satisfy Trump. I'm sure there'll be nothing there.
Trying to track back up the Trump big lie about the supposedly stolen 2020 election. Our taxpayers' dollars are being wasted with an FBI investigation in Atlanta. I'm sick and tired of this nonsense. You people need to wake up out there, folk. We're building a police state that's running amok unchecked in this country, and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are your chief architects of this.
And with that, we're just about out. So thanks again for tuning in to Media Watch. I'm Bob Anthony.
I'm Alan Singer.
Eric Tait, thanks again, Dr. Singer, resident expert, educator, historian. Not with us because of some health issues, but we'll catch you the next time, folks. Stay safe.